Hello everyone, and welcome to another part in the Aurora Forex tutorials. Today we are going to design some anti-ship missiles. However, designing missiles is one of the more complicated parts of the game, so it will take a bit to explain everything. Also, and I cannot stress this enough, designing missiles greatly depends on how you are playing the game and what situation you are in. So whatever I'm going to speak here about is basically just an advice. So please do not ask me what is the best kind of missile, or if I could say if this missile is going to be good for you. I can't. It really depends on what situation, what technologies, and mostly what enemies and what purpose are you going to use the missile in. I'm gonna make another video that focuses on anti-missile, so don't worry, that one will be explained in due time. However, today we are going to focus on missiles that will be used against ships, and that will primarily be shot from ships. I will also speak for about a minute about missiles that are launched from planets, but for now let's just think about a scenario where you are designing a missile for your ships. So how do you design a missile exactly? Well, that's a tricky question. First of all, when designing a missile, it's more than important to know exactly what you're going for. By this I mean what kind of ship will be using the missile, because this will basically decide on what kind of size you will be aiming for, and size is very important. Now, first of all, you need to decide on the size. We are going to aim for a size 10 missile to make everything, say, really easy, and to have it kinda okay in as far as the design goes. You know, some round even numbers are good for me. So let's have a size 10 missile. That's a fairly large missile that I would probably use on battleships. So first of all, you need to go to design, and here you need to look for a missile engine. Now, missile engine is incredibly important. Missile engine is the propulsion of your missile, and it is the missile engine that primarily decides whether or not your missile is going to hit. I cannot stress this enough. It's the speed, and speed primarily, that decides whether or not your missile is going to hit its target. In every level, the speed is what decides the chance for hitting the ship. The speed is what is deciding whether or not it will be destroyed by anti-missile missiles or anti-missile turrets. So you cannot go cheap on the missile engine. This is why I will tell you that no matter what you do, always go with the maximum engine power. I understand that the fuel consumption is incredible. It will make our missile engine consume 88 times more fuel than it would normally. So this is really extreme. With the fuel consumption of 0.5 liters per engine power per hour, it is actually 44.09 times more than what the engine would normally consume at its given power. But this is incredible. You will probably start with something like times 3 maybe? I think it works double. You start with 1.5 maximum modifier and is doubled for missile engine. So you would start by times 3, which is 15 times 59 the fuel consumption. But I'm gonna go with the times 6 because for missile, the speed is everything. And then we decide on the missile size. Now, as we are deciding on we're thinking about a decent sized missile. I actually have no scenario in my mind, so the number 10 was actually just just from the top of my head. So I'm gonna go with, let's say, well, do we want a size 5 really? Well, let's go with size 5. We'll see how that works. I'm gonna call this the test engine times 5. Wait. Size 5 times 6. And we're gonna get it. I'm also going to get a modifier of, say, 2.5 on the engine power. And I want you to see the difference when we design the missile. So this is our 2 engines that we have developed, and now we're gonna go to the missiles themselves, and we are going to try to design the missile. Now, this is actually really interesting because there's quite a lot of math that comes into this. You can decide on the warhead strength, the fuel capacity of your missile, the agility of your missile, and the reactor size of the missile. You can also add sensors, active, thermal, EM, or geosensors if you would want to develop basically a probe type of missile, and an active sensor resolution of your missile. The missile can also be armored. You can have ablative armor and ECM on it to make it a bit more durable. If you arm your missile, actually, that's kind of fun. I'm not using that, but if you armor your missile, any type of enemy cannons or enemy missiles will have a smaller chance of destroying your missile upon impact, which is kind of cool, really, when you think about it. But again, I have never used this before, so I'm not gonna speak largely about it. You should test it out for yourself, see if it's something that works for you. I'm pretty sure this is something that you will utilize mostly in what would be called, well, basically the PDC, it would be called PDC missiles, or land-based missile, land to space. Anyway, now regarding Warhead, Warhead is actually quite important. It's the punch that your missile is carrying. Now you can see that there's a value here. Value is actually not equal to MSP, and you will see that it scales weirdly. If we have warhead strength of 2, the value is 8. If we have 3, it has value of 12. What the hell does this mean, you might ask? Well, the MSP is basically the root of the value. And when you are designing a warhead strength, you are basically aiming for a preset set of values that are the most efficient for missiles. Now this is a bit tricky to wrap your head around, but I'm going to try to explain it. I created a dummy ship here and the shipyard of Earth. Wait, this is the wrong one. Well, I call it Kiev and Kiev 2, and we have a set amount of armor on this. The armor has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers. 7 layers on it. Now, if a missile that has a warhead power... Wait, is that the warhead power? I have to check. Warhead... No, the warhead value. If a missile with a warhead value had hit this Kiev kind of dummy ship, it would destroy one of these squares. Each of it is a part of an armor. If it hit, it would destroy one of these things, one of these blocks of armor. You probably get that. If a missile that has a value of 2 hit this armor, it would destroy 2 of these blocks. So that's kind of useless, right? You would basically bombard the ship and destroy, these two, and then these two, and then these two, and basically you would have to maybe destroy this entire layer before you would be lucky enough to hit another one. So what do? Well, if it has value of 1, it destroys 1. If it has value of 2, it destroys 2. If it has value of 3, it destroys 3 of these. But value 4 then destroys 3 of these and the one from the next layer. So another useful value for hitting enemy armor is 4. Then you would need to go with a value of 9. Why 9? Because it would destroy 5 of these, 3 of the second layer, and 1 of the third layer. Spotting a pattern here? Yep. The next one would have 7 plus 5 plus 3 plus 1. So that way you would penetrate 4 layers. This is actually kind of interesting concept because you can overpower your missile, but in a concept you need to set it to a certain amount of punch to penetrate to another layer. This is actually kind of interesting concept, and you need to try it for yourself. But basically to penetrate the next layer you always need either 1, 3, well basically that's 1, then a value of 4, then a value of 9, then a value of 9 plus 7, so that would be 16. Then the next would come 9, so that's 16 plus 9, that would be 25, and so on. I hope this is kind of understandable. If not, then let me know. I would try to explain it in description of the video or show you some basically pictures. I would put on some pictures to show it a bit more, but I hope you can wrap your head around it. So for our missile, we're gonna go with a warhead strength of 9, which I believe should be equal to a value of 2.5. No, that's too much. 2.3. 2.3. So the missile warhead strength will be 2.3, and this way we should penetrate 3 layers. The first layer will have a damage of 5. The second one will have a damage of 3, and the third one will have a damage of 1. So we'll always penetrate at least 3 layers of armor. Now we're gonna go with the test engine size 5 here. The missile is now at size 7.8, and you can see some statistics here about it. It's a missile size 7.8, it has 0.39 hull size, the warhead is 9, armor is 0, maneuver rating is 1. It has a speed of 61,500 kilometers per second, the engine endurance is 14 minutes, and the range is 52.3 million kilometers. So this missile is extremely fast. It's very fast. And here is the most important statistic of them all. A chance to hit a ship or any kind of other target moving at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per second is 615%. If it's moving at 3,000 kilometers, it's 200%. If it's moving at 5,000 kilometers, we still have a 123% chance to hit. And if it's moving at a speed of 10,000 kilometers per second, we would have a chance of 61.5%. So this is a very good start for a missile. However, we wanted a missile slightly bigger than this. So I'm gonna increase the fuel capacity to 1, which increases the missile size to 8.3, and you can see that the speed dropped to 57,800 kilometers per second. So the chances dropped as well, but it's still giving me a very decent speed to, well, hit to speed ratio, I would say it like that. Now, this is another very important part of the video which I cannot stress strong enough. The size and the type of missile you are designing should always be tuned as sensors, as ship designs, to what you want it to do, and when you encounter hostile aliens, to what they can do. you need to tune your missile. For example, if our aliens would be moving at around 4,000 kilometers per second, this is a bit of an overkill. So I could easily use slightly slower missile. If the aliens would be moving at, say, 15,000 kilometers per second, you can see that I would not have a very high chance of hitting it. Roughly, I would say 20%. So you need to be, you need to tune it. You need to make it work for you, as well with the size. The size is something you need to take into account before you start designing your missiles. You need to have an idea of what kind of magazine size you will have and what kind of launcher you will have. The bigger the launcher, the slower it shoots. Well, that's a given, but also the bigger the magazine of the ship and the less missiles you can carry around. So again, this would be a missile that is probably for a very large ship. Smaller missile, though, doesn't mean worse. If this ship had, for example, a warhead strength of 1 and a fuel capacity of 0.1, you can see that it's moving way faster. So the chance of hitting a 10,000 kilometer per second target increases as well. So bigger doesn't always mean worse, okay? Know that. The range also comes into play. If you have sensors that can pick up a target at 200 million kilometers, you need something that will have, what was it, 2.3? Yeah. You need something that would have a fuel capacity of 2? Yeah, probably 2. That slows down the missile a bit, but we don't mind. I said that the target I'm aiming this at is moving at around 5,000 kilometers per second. So we're still cool here. And we have a size 9.3 missile. So we're still below the size 10 launcher and magazine that we will have on our ship. Okay, now we have agility. Agility is a bit tricky to wrap your hand around, but it's basically fins, and wings, and I don't think those really play any role in space. More like maneuvering thrusters or high-speed maneuvering ability of the missile. So anything you have left on your missile, you should put into agility. You can see that it bumped up quite intensively. Even though the ship itself has slowed down, the chance to hit has went up, because you can see that now it's at 672% at 1000 kilometers per second speed and 134.4% chance to hit a target that's moving at 5000 kilometers. So actually, if I was aiming this at a target moving at around 4000 kilometers, I could go up with this to value 16, which would be 4? Yeah, value 4. And we would probably, I guess I would make it, that range is way too low. 76, and this missile is not really doing well, but yeah, this would work. This would actually really work. We would have a range of 81 million kilometers, which is a bit sucky here. However, it would still have a decent chance of hitting my target, and it would give a lot of punch. Now, you're probably starting to understand that this is a lot of alchemy. You can spend hours trying to tweak the missile design perfectly for you. And again, it really depends incredibly on what you need the missile to do. You can decide a very small missile with a Warhead 1 and launch thousands of them in each volley. Or you can design very large PDC-based or planet-based missiles that will basically tear enemies to shreds with one hit. It's really up to your strategy and to what you like. I have only a couple of final advice for you to think about before you start designing your missile. Advice number 1. Engine. Always always go as far as you can with the engine, because if we had a missile with the engine, the other engine, look how much it dropped. See, this goes way below. The speed of the missile is the most important thing, because that's what decides whether or not it's going to get hit by enemy anti-missile missiles and enemy anti-missile defenses. So you can never go wrong with having a missile that is going as fast as possible. Now, the thing is, it scales exponentially. If you launch 5 of these missiles, they will most likely do 10 times more damage than if you launch 20 of these, because these will either miss or get destroyed by the enemy defenses. So I know that these ones would consume way more fuel and would cost you way more to research and to process, because you will need to make a ton of them. You know, this one would cost 4 titanium and 6 of gallicide, and this one only 2.5 gallicide. But it really is worth it to go overboard with your missiles as far as speed goes. Second, if possible, always make the biggest missiles that you can fit on your launchers. I discussed this with one of my subscribers recently on another video, and he made quite a good point about what he was trying to do with a specific missile and why he didn't make it as big as possible. But as a general term, if you have a size 6 launcher, always go with a size 6 missile. If you have a size 1 launcher, always go with a size 1 missile. There's no reason to make it smaller. Third advice that I would give you regarding missiles is try, and I cannot make this clear enough, to always use as little types of missiles as possible at one time. This is, I'm struggling to explain this well, and it's going to sound a bit like patronizing, I'm afraid, but if you design a very large ship that will carry 6 types of launchers and 10 times of missiles, you will eventually get fed up with it, and that's not how missiles usually work. Try to have as clear and as easy way with your missiles as possible. So if you, for example, had a fleet of magnetoplasma generation, I would go with 1 small missile for corvettes and frigates, 1, say, bigger missile for cruisers, and then 1 really big missile that would be carried both by PDCs or battle cruisers. Now, of course, PDCs can also have a bigger missile, and there would also be a need for anti-missile missile, but don't overcomplicate it. You're wasting research points and you're wasting your production, because eventually you will get into a situation when you have already produced thousands of these things and you have a new generation of missiles coming in, and now which kind of missiles you will get rid of? What kind of ships can carry these? What kind of ships can carry that? I cannot, well, it's an advice. You can do whatever you want, but I would say go with a good handful of missiles tops. Just make them as good as possible and focus on producing reasonable amounts. This is another thing. Don't make millions of them, because you will never shoot all of them. You can run out, that's another problem, but you know, still try to be reasonable with both the number of missiles your fleet is using, your reserves, and your designs. Now, last advice that I can say about PDCs. For PDCs, designing missiles is a bit specific. Now I'm speaking about anti-ship missiles. Okay, I'm not speaking about anti-missile missiles, which we will discuss in another video. Probably tomorrow it will be published, who knows when. But still, PDCs are land-based. They have no magazine problems. You know, they don't have to carry anything, and if you make their magazines really big, you don't have a problem. They're not slower because they're not moving. So, if you are designing defenses for your colonies, always go insane with the missiles you are making. You can go apeshit. Just make the missiles as potent as possible. Because again, if one missile carrying incredible punch hits the enemy ship, it blows up. If you fire millions of these and they all get shot down by the enemy defenses, you lost and your colony will be wiped. So whatever you can afford and deem reasonable, build it. Build as many of those and arm to the teeth. There are very nasty races in Aurora, and I'm speaking about some of them, some very specific, that if you met them and they came and you saw what they can do, they can wipe your civilization out. So if you're designing land to space missiles, do not be afraid of going overboard. You can put as many engines on your missile as you want, so do not be afraid to make them potent. It's really important. Also, every time you design a new generation of engines, immediately rearm all your ships as fast as possible. A ship itself can work with a slow engine, but the speed of a missile is everything. Really, that's all there is to it. You can put 4 or 10, but you see the diminishing effect because the missile gets bigger, so every additional engine is just taking away fuel and taking away its agility, so only less and less increasing the speed. However, if you would put in a completely different type of engine, a new generation of engine, the missile will perform completely different. So now, before I end, I'm gonna try to design a small missile as a counterpart to this big one. Something that I would design for my, I would say, frigate, maybe frigate. So what is this one? If I put size 1, fuel capacity of 0 and 1. And this is this has 5.76 magnetoplasma drive. I have no idea what size of this is, so I'll create a new engine. At least you can see it again, so you will have a bit more of a training in this. But let's go with a missile engine here. It's gonna be magnetoplasma. It's going to have maximum engine power, and we're going to make it smaller. Say, we would be aiming for something like size 3 for a frigate. It seems reasonable. 3 to 4. Let's make it 4. So we're gonna go with 1.5. Actually, how big would be the warhead strength of 4? It's value of 1. So that's value 1. Engine will be value of 1.5. So that's 2.5. Yeah, that seems about correct. So this would be a 7.2 magnetoplasma drive engine. So let's design it. And we're gonna look at this. Do we have it here? Nope. I have to refresh it. So let's design a missile, and we're going to go with, yes, newest engine, size 1 of Warhead, So totally we're looking at size 3 missile now. You can see that it's slightly slower than the other way bigger missile, but we don't really care. The range is a bit lower than what I'm used to. We can actually up this one up all the way to 1.2. That would make it way slower, but the range is 116 million kilometers. Can we get a bit more if we went with 1.3? 122. Okay, that is reasonable. And I can put the rest 0.2 into agility. Yeah, that helps a lot, actually. You can see that the chances went up. So this is some very basic missile I would use on my frigates. If actually this is size 4, did I say size 3? I think I did. So that would be like this. Oh, that is appalling, too little. So I'd probably go like this. Yeah, the chances are not all that bad. And it has a 59 million kilometer range, so still it would be useful. It would be useful. Though this would work probably more like a late response, because, you know, at this point the ship would be way better. We'll see, you know, we'll see the whole process, what I would go through when I'm actually trying to design some ships for you guys to see how the logic clicks and how to work. I think this tutorial is pretty much complete by now. There's not much else to say, but you know, I tried to show everything. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I know it's a bit more complicated than the previous tutorials, but hopefully you can wrap your hand around it. Even if you haven't designed any missile up till now, you should have a basic idea now. So feel free to play with it, feel free to see what you can do with it. There are so many combinations, so many different... Wow, I hit my wine glass. So many different possibilities for you. Really, just make it work, make sure it works for you, and make sure it works for your situations. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.